Hey everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing Arron's sumo rig and giving insight into how it compares to rigs typically used in production. So, first thing I want to do is grab the world control and move it around. And I can see that it's quite light, which is awesome because typically in production, animation will have shots with 5+ characters, so it makes it hard to manage the scene if rigs get too heavy. So the fact this is quite light is awesome. I also see that you have different colors based on the side for your controls, which is great. Typically red is for the right side, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's eligible. And then you have yellow for middle, which is awesome. You have these control sets over here, which I highly recommend. Normally in production, animation will have like a picker, which is a graphical interface with all the controls on there to select. But if they don't have that, then they always ask for these different sets to select things quickly, so it's awesome to added these. Layers over here, I don't like layers too often, especially if it's things just for visibility of geo or controls or things like that. I normally just put it onto the settings control above the head of the character, so animation, they see a cog and they're like, okay, this cog I'm going to be able to swap to IKFK, or I'm going to be able to turn off the controls. So I normally just have one main central control for that. Okay, going down here to the world control again. Right now it's visible in perspective, but as soon as you go to front view or side view, you can't see it. So make sure the world control is more three-dimensional, so the animators are going to be able to access it from different angles very easily. Moving into the foot now. Currently the foot control is sort of flush on the ground, and that makes it hard when animation are starting to want to have contacts with the ground, which is always a pass that they want to do before they play blast a shot. And right now, if you try and contact the ground, you lose the control. So I would recommend making it more of a box around the foot so it's always accessible. Oh, and one other thing is these arrow controls, I'm not too sure what they do right now. I haven't seen them before. Scene direction. I wouldn't worry about it, honestly. I would probably hide them or not even have them at all. Another thing I want to say about the controls is you want to typically have the side at the start of the control name, then you have what the control is, and then the suffix, which would be, control or join or group and things like that. Okay, you have these attributes here, which is great. Roll. Just make sure the pivots are in the right spot. These are fine. And you want to make sure also that your skinning isn't flooding to different areas of the body, like you see happening up in the calf here. I made actually a tutorial on my channel, how to skin in Maya. I would go ahead and watch that. It's all about blocking out weights on the character, so it keeps weights very localized. It's the first pass I do when skinning any character, so I would highly recommend that. Going up the foot a bit, we have the pole vector here, which is fine. I'd say it's a bit far out probably. If animation were to lift the leg up, they might start to forget where the pole vector's gone to. So the further out it is, typically you want to have a line going to the knee, just so it's understood that this is where the pole vector is leading to. And while we're on the foot, actually, this current axis that we have for the ankle is going to make it hard for animators to move the foot cleanly. Right now it's going to go, sort of forward or up, back. You want to make it as clean as possible for them to use. So typically it's more sort of a world control axis to start with, conform to the direction of the foot, just so animation can grab one axis very easily and lift up the foot like that. You don't want them having to fight with a lot of different channels to get a simple motion like we have to do now. And also in the channels, just go ahead and hide these ones that have connections to them. Animation can't do anything with them anyway, so there's no point having them visible. Okay, IK switch. Make sure the leg isn't moving when we swap between those. And again, you just want to make sure these are oriented well with the foot. This one's okay. But yeah, you just want them to make sense for different parts of the foot. This one's a bit off axis now, and this one's on axis. So just a pass of making sure the orientation of all controls makes sense. Okay, moving up the body, you have your hip control, which is great. Make sure it doesn't affect the arms as well. It's just localized to the torso. And then I saw here that you sort of have a different axis to the control than what the shape is. You want to make sure all the shapes are aligned. You don't want animation to always be second guessing the angle of a control before they select it. So I would just grab all these and have them rotating the same direction as your manipulators that you have right now. Also, right now your chest control is a bit low, I think. I'd want it up more where the chest is here. This currently sort of affects the whole body, but if you want that whole body effect, I would bring it up to where the chest is now, around this area here between the arms. Okay, another thing I didn't mention down here is that you want to make sure the skinning is going to hold up when you bring in the legs up like this. Typically in production animation, I'm going to really want to pull the rig around to get poses they need for different shots, and this is a very typical type of stance I'd want to get the leg to. So if I'm moving it out sideways, for example, you know, it's going to start crashing pretty easily. So you really want to battle test your skinning before releasing it. So this is, I would say this is extreme, but you want to make sure the skinning is looking clean for poses like this. So you're within the range when animation actually start using your rig, and it's not going to break as soon as they start moving the leg around. So always pushing your controls further than you think they're going to be used for. So animation never going to get to that extreme point. Okay, cool. Hip control. Okay, the FK arms. I'm not sure why I can't rotate in more than one axis. Just unlock all of these, and if animation want to lock anything, they would let you know to lock something for them. But typically, you don't want to constrain them. There'd be shots where they want to cheat something and they want to have more of a smear frame, or for a couple of frames have the arm doing a different pose. So just not confining them to one axis. Let them tell you when they want something locked. And same for the wrist as well, yeah. It's only one axis. And just be careful with the twisting that's going on here. This is a very typical pose that animation will want to get to, the arm straight out forward. So make sure you're also battle testing these positions as well. This is very typical pose, and then up to the top is something that they would do as well. Okay, let's just go to FK though. Watch out for these keyframes as well. Just make sure it's fresh and nothing's on them animated. Yeah, just make sure that flipping is not going to happen too quickly. Yep, so make sure I talk about this in my skinning video as well, making sure you have a clean calisthenics, so a good range of motion that you're skinning to make sure it's going to hold up for animators. Finger controls are fine, quite selectable, which is cool. If you want it to be easier for animation to use, maybe like a global control that moves all the fingers at once. Because what they're going to want to do is they want to, for their animation pose library, they're going to make all different types of hand shapes that they can quickly use for different shots. So just making that as easy for them to make as possible. And then I would add a few more controls up here, the metacarpal controls, which would sort of come all the way up to this type of position up here for all the fingers. Because a lot of the time animation are going to want to sort of make cusp motions with their wrist, which affect all the way up to the wrist almost. Sorry, cusp motions with the whole hand. So having those extra controls up near the wrist are going to really help them bend the hand around to more ideal positions. Okay, moving up to the head. Jaw control right now is, I would have this pivot way back where behind the ear is, sort of where you have the head control. That's a better position. Not sort of localized around the jaw right now, because it's sort of, I don't know, it's got its own pivot position, which might be around the head already, I'm not sure, but just have that pivot where it typically would be, which is behind the ear. head control, fine. For the lookout control, highly suggest all rigs have a lookout control, so awesome that you have one of these. I would make sure that all these are aligned with the actual eyes. Right now they're a bit offset, and so it's not going to be a true lookout. When animation constrain this to something, it's not going to be one-to-one where his eyes are actually looking. So make sure these by default are more sort of in line with his eyeball. So it's a true lookout position. And then you have these blink controls here, which is cool. I would probably just limit them so you don't let animation go crazy with them, just as far as the blink will let you. You have the follow here, which is great. I think all these controls should have space switches like you have. The IK hands, the lookout controls, IK feet. Cool, man. I think overall, great job. Hopefully those notes are helpful to you. Let me know how you go with them. And if anyone else wants their rig or rigging wheel reviewed, feel free to fill in the form in the comments. It takes less than 2 minutes. And I'm also thinking of setting up a small private rigging group where I'd be able to review your stuff in more regular rotation. Say you made some changes and you want me to check over it again, I'd be able to do that. So if you're interested, also fill out the form below.